सेंसर करके एक एलिमेंट होता है हमारे मोबाइल में, हमारे कैमरा में, जो एक्चुअल में लाइट को रिकॉर्ड करने के लिए हेल्प करता है। दैट इज अ नॉर्मल अंडरस्टैंडिंग। अब ये जो सेंसर है, ये सेंसर एक एलिमेंट है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एलिमेंट। ये बहुत सारे छोटे छोटे जो पिक्सेल्स होते हैं उनसे बनता है। तो ये जो सेंसर है, इसमें कितने पिक्सेल्स होंगे उसका कैलकुलेशन है। सिंपल, अगर मैं आपको बताऊं तो सेंसर के साइजेस क्या क्या होते हैं। जैसे जब एनालॉग से डिजिटल में एरा शिफ्ट हो रहा था, तो उस वक्त जो कंपनीज थी, जो भी मैन्युफैक्चरर्स थे, उन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को सबसे बड़ा सवाल था कि किस साइज में सेंसर हम लोग बनाए। मीन्स कौन सा बेसिक साइज रहेगा, कौन सा बेस साइज रहेगा। तो उन्होंने क्या किया, उन्होंने 36x24 का जो साइज था ना मेरा, मैंने आपको जो फिल्म का दिखाया था,
हाँ।
तो वो 36x24 का जो साइज है, उसको बेस लिया एंड उससे बाकी की कंपैरिजंस बनाना चालू कर दिया। फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मेरा सेंसर 36x24 है, तो वो एक नॉर्मल स्टैंडर्ड साइज है। उससे अगर छोटे रहेंगे बाकी के सेंसर, तो वो छोटे सेंसर कैलकुलेट कराएंगे। उससे अगर बड़ा कुछ रहेगा तो वो बड़े सेंसर कैलकुलेट करेंगे। अब ये छोटा बड़ा क्या होता है, तो फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे मैं अगर आपको बताऊं, तो यहाँ पर आपको ये चीज दिखाई दे रही है, जिसको बोलते हैं फुल फ्रेम। तो जैसे मैं आपको बता रहा था ना कि ये जो सिंगल है, दैट इज, ये जो एक साइज होता है 36x24 का, वो बेस साइज है। उससे नीचे जितने भी अलग अलग सेंसर्स बनाते गई कंपनी, उसमें हर एक में क्रॉप फैक्टर आने लग गया। क्रॉप फैक्टर क्या मतलब, अगर मैं आपको एक आधा लीटर का पानी का बोतल लेता हूँ, और मेरे पास अगर फुल पानी का बोतल है, राइट, मेरे पास है 1 लीटर का है, आपके पास आधा है, इट इज हाफ लीटर का, तो आपके पास कितना क्रॉप रहेगा, 0.5, करेक्ट। तो ये हमारा
अच्छा।
क्रॉप फैक्टर हो गया कि 0.5 मतलब वो जो आपके पास पानी का बोतल है जो आधा लीटर का है, वो हाफ परसेंटेज के कम है, 50% का है। सेम
ओके।
हम लोग यहाँ पर ध्यान में रखेंगे कि जो भी फुल फ्रेम कैमराज होते हैं ना, तो फुल फ्रेम कैमरा का जो सेंसर साइज होगा, वो आपका कितना रहेगा, 36x24 mm, राइट। और उसके बाद में जितने भी अलग अलग साइजेस रहेंगे ना, जैसे मैंने अभी ये कैमरा जो यूज करा था, जिसको APS-C साइज बोलते हैं, तो ये कैमरा में जो भी सेंसर साइज रहेगा वो छोटा रहेगा। तो वो कितना छोटा रहेगा, उसकी वजह से मेरे इमेज के ऊपर क्या डिफरेंस होता है, वो लोग अभी हम लोग अंडरस्टैंड करेंगे। आपको मैं एक वीडियो दिखाऊंगा, तो वो वीडियो हम लोग देखेंगे एंड देन वी विल कम टू नो कि मेरे सेंसर के जो साइजेस अब तक स्टार्टिंग से कितने अलग अलग इवोल्यूशंस होते आए।
We will start with the 1/3 inch sensor. There are smaller ones, but none of them is relevant for filmmaking. You probably have one of those in your phone, and nowadays these sensors are most often used for social media diarrhea, but this size was also used in 3 CCD camcorders that were popular around the millennium. Danny Boyle's iconic 28 Days Later was mostly shot on such a camcorder. If you were born in the 70s, your childhood films are most probably shot on Super 8 film. In the professional realm, it never gained much traction except for training or as a stylized approach. This is from the 2005 short The Man Who Met Himself. Just a little larger is the 1 to 2/3 inch sensor found in the GoPro Hero 3 and in the DJI Mavic. Bringing us to the broadcast evergreen 2 to 3. Most studio and live sports cameras are still using this class of sensors as they are easy to focus and allow for extremely wide zoom ranges. Surprisingly, episode 2 and 3 of the Star Wars prequels were shot on early Cine Altas that use sensors in the 2/3 size. We step up to the full 1 inch that is used in the Phantom 4 Pro drone and many pocket cams. Way more relevant is the larger Super 16mm film format, historically and even today in independent pictures, mostly as a cheaper alternative to 35mm, but also for its grittier look. Great movies like Leaving Las Vegas and Black Swan have been shot on 16mm, even though the budget might not have been a limiting factor. A large jump leads to the Micro Four Thirds standard. Here we find a fan favorite from Panasonic, Olympus and Blackmagic design, as well as higher tier drone cameras like the DJI X5S. Our next stop is a big one, as we enter the family of 35mm sizes, and there are many. In the digital realm, we often find HPC and slightly differing sizes to be used synonymously with Super 35mm formats, where there are many sizes as well. Historically, it makes sense to start with Academy 35. That was the leading cinema standard from 1932 until the widescreen revolution starting in the early 50s. The 1.37 to 1 aspect ratio is very close to the 4 to 3 ratio used in the pre-HD TV and almost all classic movies like Citizen Kane, Casablanca, It's a Wonderful Life, and The Thief of Baghdad all used it. Today it is used for mostly nostalgic reasons, and of course Wes Anderson is the kind of director to do so in some of his movies. Another modern installment is the Oscar-winning feature The Artist. Our next stop is the gold standard of cinema, until today, the Super 35 Full Aperture. After TVs found their ways into most households, cinemas needed a novelty to fill their seats. Widescreen, so a wider aspect ratio, was born. There were many competing systems with slightly different aspects, but we will simplify it for this short journey. The most iconic way to achieve a widescreen is the use of anamorphic lenses during filming and projection. This allowed most of the production chain to be unaltered. The scope has a certain look that's still popular, maybe even more than ever. A lot of iconic movies were shot in scope, like Blade Runner and the Alien movies. And in more modern times, films like La La Land, and of course, it works in digital sensors, just as well like here in Ex Machina and in It. Of course, Super 35 widescreen can be achieved by just cropping the image or by using a Super 35 that doesn't use the full height, like 3 perforation Super 35. A lot of iconic movies have been shot on Super 35 and cropped to widescreen, like Goldfinger, E.T. And it is still popular in cinema and high-end TV productions like the glorious Westworld. The list of Super 35 films shot on film and digital is endless, and is growing steadily. The full-frame 35mm comes from still photography, and it was the format that started the DSLR filming revolution, with the Canon 5D. Ironically, it hasn't played a big role in TV or cinema productions other than as a B or crash cam. Some TV shows, like the later House seasons, were shot entirely on 5D using the full-frame crop to 16:9 aspect. The full frame is also the entrance to a new field of sensor and film sizes that are becoming more popular with evolving technology and a need for nostalgia, the large format, or short LF. As full frame is considered a large format compared with the cinema standard Super 35, it is usually included in the definition. The first true LF format is VistaVision, but films shot entirely in the format are very rare. One of the few better known is Hitchcock's Vertigo. VistaVision was widely used for special effects, shots given extra resolution and less grain. For example, the original Star Wars movies and Dune used it. Tron's computer animations were rendered to VistaVision, where the live action was shot at 65mm, which brings us to another format that has historic relevance but is revived in analog and digital versions. 65mm. A wide negative or sensor achieves a wide aspect without anamorphic lenses, but some processors are still using anamorphic lenses with a squeeze factor of 1.25 for an ultra-wide image. Just like VistaVision, it was often used for special effects shot for the same reasons, like in Blade Runner. Classic films like Kubrick's 2001 and Lawrence of Arabia are shot on 65mm negative. Tarantino resurrected the analog format for The Hateful Eight, and business giant Arri has added the Arri 65 to their rental program. This digital 65mm version has a slightly different dimension, but not in a relevant way. The Renovant is a prime example for the capabilities of the Arri 65 and the future of large format filming. In our journey we passed by the smallest medium photography format, the 645. That might become an LF standard in the future. It is interesting as lenses are available at reasonable prices, and they're quite future-proof in terms of sensor coverage. Our last stop is the IMAX format. While there are IMAX digital formats, they rely on smaller sensors like the RE65. The king of all formats is therefore still analog film. It is a full height format that again gets us close to where we started from, a 4:3 image. as IMAX is very expensive and because of the equipment's size and weight, it has mostly been used for documentaries. But in the last decade, it has become more popular in feature films. Especially Christopher Nolan likes to use IMAX for many sequences in his movies, like here in Dunkirk and in the heist sequence of The Dark Knight. IMAX is often used when an extra little bit of cinema magic is required, as it claims to be especially immersive, like here in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. We will talk about that in a second, but for now our journey ends.